I see that my last episode about Phillips and ERCOT took off. So, on this episode of Truckin It, we're going to be talking about something else that ticks me off, namely automated emergency braking in work zones, and what to do if a driver cuts you off, coming up. So this is a combined Buck Off plus Truckin It episode. Links are in the description below for products and services that I mention in here. And if you didn't see my last episode entitled Phillips versus ERCOT on the Buck Off side of the channel, go check that out now. That episode is gaining a lot of popularity due to both the ERCOT power outages and the Phillips Dream Station recall. So, also known as hashtag Foamgate, by the way. And here's another channel I want you to check out. After you get through watching this episode, go check out the channel called CPAP Reviews. It's run by a guy named Nick out of Australia. And he's got a lot more info on what happened with the Dream Station and why he'll never trust Phillips again with CPAP devices. So, now, speaking of places I can't trust. Let's start with state departments of transportation and also car companies who market products that are junk. You know who you are. And having a car equipped with your little CVT poop its pants in front of my pickup truck today, I saw that you are putting drivers into danger with that. And in more ways than one. Worse yet, these departments of transportation do not know how to set up work zones for vehicles equipped with an auto brake system. And it's becoming your responsibility, if you have a vehicle with auto brake, to make sure that you have a safe area to correct in the event that someone slams the brakes in front of you, tosses a cone in front of you, or sets up a barricade that triggers your radar. So coming up, I'm talking about it right now. Hey y'all, it's Trucker Zach Bell. And this episode of Truckin It does have elements from Buck Off due to the fact that we need to talk about this. This message is intended for those of y'all who run a state department of transportation or have a vehicle equipped with automatic braking. Now, many people confuse automatic braking with anti-lock braking, first off, just because they sound similar. But these are two different systems. Anti-lock braking is the well-known system that pumps your brakes electronically in a situation where you're doing a hard brake and are about to skid. This is not that system. Auto brake is a radar-based braking system that automatically brings your vehicle to a stop when it senses a foreign object in front of the vehicle without any driver input. I'm talking about the ladder system, typically marketed under names like Detroit Assurance, Ford Copilot 360, Toyota Safety Sense, Cadillac Super Cruise, amongst others. So, if you drive a vehicle equipped with one of these systems, you probably know what I'm talking about. Let's say a car suddenly slams the brakes in front of you, and you're finding yourself having to swerve to avoid a collision with that car. And as you're doing so, your vehicle starts beeping very loudly at you, and your brake pedal gets very, very firm. Or even comes to a complete stop on its own. And You've seen the crash test videos from organizations like Consumer Reports and the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, amongst others, that demonstrate the benefit of this feature. However, there are consequences to that. And one of the consequences is reduction in control that's available to the driver. Because when your vehicle slams on the brakes, it still risks wheels locking up, tires skidding, and getting you into all kinds of trouble. Or you could have, on a hot day like today, an overheating brake situation where the brakes get hot and the system loses its effectiveness, and you still either end up rear-ending the hazard or, as I did today, avoiding it with a hard emergency swerve. So let me tell you about the hazard that happened to me today at Burleson, Texas on I-35W South. I was on my way home from dropping off a piece of furniture at a friend's house, and I had my cruise control set to around 60 miles per hour and was trying to get up to the speed limit of 70. At the same time, the traffic ahead of me was beginning to slow down and stop, and a Nissan driver with one of those JATCO CVTs decided to slam on the brakes. I guess she was tired of her CVT. And when she did so, she slammed the brakes so hard that my Toyota Tundra's safety sense kicked in and started alerting me that she was slamming on the brakes, and I was able to luckily do an emergency swerve and get around her. And of course, this ultimately became a road rage incident because as I was doing so, she obviously gave me the bird because of her aggressive actions. Therefore, and by the bird I mean a certain gesture with a certain finger that I cannot talk about on this channel. Therefore, I want you to be aware of these hazards. Because brake checking another vehicle is a crime. And in addition to that, by forcing me to do an emergency swerve, she didn't realize the danger she had caused. And yeah, if you want to learn more about the defects on that particular CVT that I mentioned, that I called Jap Crap, go check out Scotty Kilmer's channel after you watch this episode. He talks all about it. Now, on to the State Departments of Transportation, triggering the same feature with a different cause. So, I don't care how crappy your car is. I don't care that you're aggressive and upset about whatever. Please respect your fellow drivers. Because now in these work zones, let's just say this pack of Starburst is a barricade. And this little model semi is a truck equipped with auto brake. Most of the time in a work zone, the driver's able to go around. But in the last couple of weeks, I've seen the state DOTs angling the barricade in such a manner that a truck with auto brake literally brings itself to a stop as the driver tries to go around. Okay, let's... Okay, so... Well, I'm going to almost need a table for this, so let's turn the... Well, not going to turn the camera. But normally, a driver's able to get around this. But when the state angles the barricade, as you can see, the truck with auto brake will stop. And think of, and it'll do the same if the DOT throws a cone in front of the truck. So that means that you DOT workers need to be trained on how to set these work zones up for modern vehicles equipped with modern safety features, such as automatic braking. Excuse the cough there. You need to make sure that when you're setting up cones that they're tucked in kind of tight to where your work area is. So that way the trucker can see that and safely avoid the cones. Because here's the dire consequence that happens if you don't. So you set up your work zone. Way too narrow, let's say. The trucker tries to swerve to avoid the work zone and starts going off into the grass. And that leads to a deadly consequence. Either the truck strikes a bridge column, the truck tips over, or otherwise you're risking the trucker's life. So make sure that when you're setting up these work zones, you have plenty of width for the driver to get around. Oh yeah, and one more thing. For all you drivers out there, both in trucks and in cars, when you're coming up on a work zone of any kind, please slow down, increase your following distance, and be mindful of where you're at in your lane. Because here's a third hazard that can cause an accident. Let's say this power bank is the lane width of a typical 2-lane road. And the DOT decides to close one of the lanes without mentioning it by making your 2 lanes extra narrow. Okay? I'm using the Starburst wrapper as the barricade again. What happens is when these 2 trucks try to pass each other, they run one of them into the path of a bridge column, barricade, or other hazard when this is going on. Because the drivers know their rigs are 8 foot 6 inches wide, but they don't know that the lane width is 6 inches narrower. And that only one truck can get through at a time. So this is another lesson learned. Be mindful of your surroundings, slow down in the work zones, and please be careful if you're going to be passing another truck, so that as to making sure that other truck has space to correct if the work zone becomes hazardous. Alright, that's my rant for today. Again, if you want to see an episode that's starting to go viral, check out the Foamgate/ERCOT episode that I released last week. Otherwise, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next episode. I'm Trucker Zach Bell, and until next time, let's stay safe and let's make your best trip your next trip. Keep learning, keep thinking, keep on trucking. Bye for now.